black, tar-like substance. Sherby takes the baby while Jacek promises to sort out the system. Cleo leaves for work, assuring Sherby that they'll soon move out of the building. Meanwhile, Yuri takes out the trash and explores the gloomy building. Unexpectedly, the boys from earlier grab him, demanding duplicates of the building manager's keys while their father is busy inspecting his workshop. Sherby, realizing they've run out of baby formula, tries to borrow money from a neighbor. The neighbor invites him to return later, but Sherby needs the formula urgently and attempts to steal a pack from the local store. Lone, the shopkeeper's daughter, catches him and stops the theft. Jacek opens the doors to the basement, surprised to find its walls and machinery covered in the same black, viscous substance, which is preventing the boilers from functioning properly. Meanwhile, Sherby visits the neighbor, where several residents of the building are gathered. A woman with a baby offers to breastfeed Sherby's child in exchange for a package of the same black substance. Jacek opens another pipe, and the black liquid pours out again. Sherby admits they haven't named their baby yet. The neighbors pass the baby around, admiring him and pooling together gifts for the new tenant. Jacek discovers that there's a stove in the apartment above, and he rushes there with a fire extinguisher. It turns out to be the apartment where the neighbors have gathered. Jacek puts out the stove and disperses the potentially hazardous group. Later, he praises Yuri for cleaning up the kitchen and notices a cleaning agent, which he takes to the workshop to test on the black liquid. The substance smokes and evaporates with a strange sound resembling human sighs. Jacek finds several canisters of vinegar in a cupboard. Meanwhile, Sherby carries his child home, promising that tomorrow everything will change. They'll move out, christen the baby, give him a beautiful name, and become a picture-perfect family. Suddenly, he feels drawn to the garbage chute, where he throws the money the neighbors gave him down the shaft. At the same time, Yuri ends up near the garbage chute and witnesses Sherby exchanging a small package of the black substance. Jacek begins cleaning the boiler room components with vinegar, which the black substance seems to react to with resistance. The house itself seems to respond. Yuri is thrown back from the chute, fleeing and bumping into a boy. Jacek struggles with the misbehaving valves, while the boy leads Yuri to a dingy lounge with an old freezer chest. The boy, Dennis, pulls out an ice cream, explaining he's been following Yuri because he's bored. His mother often comes home late. Meanwhile, Cleo leaves a message on her husband's answering machine, saying she's delayed at work and that tomorrow they'll go see a new apartment. However, the phone mysteriously erases her message, leaving Sherby unaware of it. Sherby suffers from auditory hallucinations as the baby cries again. He frantically runs around the apartment before grabbing the baby and heading to the corridor, once again finding himself near the garbage chute. Sometime later, he regains consciousness on the floor near the open chute, but realizes the baby is no longer in his arms. From the depths of the building, he hears the baby's cries. At that moment, the boiler starts working, and hot water flows through the building's pipes. Yuri is awakened by a knock at the door. It's Sherby, begging for help to find his missing child. The two head to the basement, but the baby isn't in the trash container. However, his cries can clearly be heard from the garbage chute. Rescue workers are called and descend into the pipe, but they come up empty-handed. Meanwhile, Cleo remembers the meeting, but finds no messages on the answering machine. She assumes Sherby must have started using again. How else could he lose their baby? Sherby denies the accusation, claiming he's clean. After the police leave, Jacek returns to Yuri with a blueprint of the building. Yuri admits to hearing the baby's cries in the chute, but his father reminds him that it was already inspected. At the same time, Cleo and Sherby begin searching apartments. When one neighbor opens their door, their fighting dog escapes. Jacek spots the dog and chases after it, only to find a black stain on the wall instead. Cleo hears the sound of a baby crying behind a neighbor's door, but the woman who breastfed the baby earlier emerges, revealing Sherby's lie. Though Sherby swears he hasn't used and even shows her the unopened packet of the substance, Cleo storms off. Jacek continues chasing the dog, but ends up meeting Zettel, the owner of a cat, who invites him into his home. Meanwhile, Yuri meets Lone, who isn't rushing home after school, but heading to the apartment of an older neighbor. Yuri hears the baby's cries again and decides to study the building's blueprint. Zettel introduces Jacek to his large family. Yuri, in the meantime, finds Dennis in the lounge and convinces him to help search for the missing child. He points out that the lounge isn't marked on the blueprint, meaning there could be other unmarked spaces in the building. Sherby tries to return the packet of the substance to the three boys, but they refuse to give him back the money. The sophisticated neighbor is playing Bach's Fugue for Lone, admiring its beauty while embracing her. Then he instructs her to undress. Dennis brings Yuri to his apartment but asks him not to wake his mother. He takes a glass and uses it to listen to the walls, demonstrating a strange echo. Yuri listens as well, marveling at the building's odd acoustics. They soon come across a newly installed barrier, and Yuri, asking Dennis to stay put, runs to his father to borrow his set of keys. He heads to Lone to make duplicates. Later, Yuri opens the barrier despite Dennis's fears and pleads to stay away. Hearing the cries of the baby, Yuri is determined to press on. Sherby and Cleo also hear the baby's voice and, along with Jacek, head toward the garbage chute, only to find the building manager's keys missing. Yuri and Dennis approach the source of the crying. Along the way, Dennis disappears, but Yuri notices a large black mold stain on the wall. As he touches it, the mold seems to part under his hand. While Yuri blindly explores the wall's interior, Dennis whispers an apology to someone unseen. Jacek, Cleo, and Sherby manage to enter the chute, where they spot a woman in white holding a baby. Cleo pleads for her son, but it turns out to be the deranged homeless man wearing a dress and cradling a doll. Meanwhile, Yuri realizes his hand is stuck, as if the wall itself is holding him. He calls for help and sees the snarling face of the escaped dog nearby. Panicking, he pulls with all his might and finally breaks free. Dennis hears a voice from the ventilation system calling him a beloved son and urging him to come closer. When he touches the vent, it becomes red hot and Dennis screams in pain. Yuri rushes to his father, convinced he knows where the baby is. However, when they return to the spot, the hole in the wall is gone. Jacek breaks through, only to find an empty maintenance room. He assumes Yuri is hallucinating due to the trauma of losing his mother and offers to talk about it. Their conversation is interrupted by a knock at the door. Cleo asks if she can stay with them for a while. Deep within the building, a small hand momentarily emerges from a tangled web of walls, only to vanish again. Meanwhile, Zettel organizes a hunt for the escaped dog, which is rescued by a trio of boys led by Ninja. In the basement, the homeless man collects the black liquid into bottles, preparing it into the hallucinogenic powder. That night, Yuri dreams of his mother and remembers the strange stone he left under his bed. When he goes to the kitchen, he finds Cleo making breakfast. Later, Cleo returns to her apartment to pack her belongings, not wanting to face her husband, who lost their son. Yuri, meanwhile, goes to the garbage chute and tries to throw away the stone, but it heats up in his hand, refusing to let him discard it. He enters the elevator, where he's joined...
दोनों को मार यही ताड़ा गन कौन सा गन है दुकान बन गया देखो कल तोड़े गन यार पोस्ट करने का चाहिए फिर दम हो जाएगी ये अच्छा खेल रहे हैं हम तो वीडियो कर लेता नहीं हो पाएगा
I always have a backup plan.
हमने फेवरेट गन नहीं लाया इस बार तो इससे मारते बेटा ये क्या करना हट जा फालतू गन है ये ना देखने के लिए मत काम आएगा लोगों ये वाला मैं देखने के लिए ये मार भी हेडशॉट किसी ने एक खाली तो गोली लोड पाता है वो भी हेल्प ले लेते हैं मार दो मार दो गोली हेल्प हमने अपना टीम का मुकाम मारा चला कोई लाइक दिया हुआ अच्छा खेल रहे हैं मैं फेवरेट गन क्यों नहीं आया शायद ये अच्छा खेल रहा है उसमें बस गोलियां ले भरना पड़ता है घंटे ये साला वैसे नहीं है और भी नहीं खेल सकते हैं चलो पैसा खत्म हो गया इसको मार रहे हैं ये देखो ये देखो तो मेरी फ्री फायर टीम है ये फ्री फायर तुम जा रहे हो प्लीज मोरे ये बचाओ हमको लास्ट तो चलो लास्ट नहीं है राउंड 5 है ये हो गया लोग फिर देखो मेरे तरफ फोन नहीं ज्यादा ये अच्छा खेल अच्छा तो कौन सा बन रहा है यार हम ये थोड़ा अब ना फोर था बस साला क्या कर
Free Fire India is set in a the true clash is upcoming between me and Melissa. I trained myself for this over.
ये पढ़ रही है क्या करूँ तू? हम वीडियो का रहा समझे मारता नहीं है ये सार बनती है
This is nothing to worry about. I always have a backup.
था ना दे
This is nothing to worry about. I always have a backup plan. Need equipment. First doom. Thanks. Double takedown. Triple takedown. Nothing to worry about. I always have a backup plan.